In 2008, a Swedish vampire film called Let the Right One In was released to a tremendous reception, and it's since gone on to become a cult classic. It's even spawned a television series which currently airs on Showtime. But what's kind of been forgotten in all of this is that just 2 years later, in 2010, an American remake called Let Me In, directed by none other than Matt Reeves of the Batman fame, was released. And despite a great critical reception, this movie bombed at the box office and has largely been forgotten. While the original is heralded as a masterpiece. But I'm going to tell you why, between the two films, Let Me In is the better movie. Stay tuned. Okay, if you haven't seen either of these films, I'll give you a brief plot synopsis, but there's spoilers ahead, just so you know. A young boy lives in an apartment complex with his mother, and he's very lonely and he's constantly bullied at school. Soon after, a young girl moves in with an old man who we assume is her father. And the young girl befriends the boy, and we find out later on that the girl is a vampire, and the old man is actually her familiar who goes out and murders people to retrieve blood for her. But the old man is later captured and he gets killed, and in the end, the boy and the girl run away together. I call them the boy and the girl because they have different names in both versions. In the original Swedish version, their names are Ellie and Oscar, and in the American version, their names are Abby and Owen. I hope it doesn't get confusing from here on out. I first saw Let the Right One In back in 2008 when it was first released on DVD. I got it through Netflix, through the mail, the old school way. And when I saw it, like most people, I loved it. I really thought it was fantastic. And a couple of years later, when I heard they were going to do an American remake, I wasn't sure how to feel. Because most of the time when they do a remake of a foreign film, it doesn't turn out so good. There are a few exceptions, but most of the time it's not as good. And before it was released, I saw Roger Ebert. He gave this movie 3.5 out of 4 stars, and it was hovering right around 90% on the tomato meter. So that gave me some hope. And then I went and saw it, and I loved it. I mean, and I thought it was absolutely really terrific. And this movie holds the record for the most times I've seen a movie in a theater. I saw it 4 times. Actually, it's tied with The Dark Knight. I saw The Dark Knight 4 times also. And I think the reason for that is they put it in the hands of a real master director in Matt Reeves. He was coming off of Cloverfield, and after that he went on to do a couple of the Planet of the Apes films, which Planet of the Apes is really an underrated trilogy. Like it's really a great trilogy that nobody ever talks about. And he's also done the Batman, which now everybody knows who he is because of that. I want to talk a little bit about the performances now, because that's one of the main reasons why I feel like Let Me In is the superior film. The performances overall are just better. Specifically, Cody Smith-McPhee. Now, we saw Cody Smith-McPhee just last year in The Power of the Dog, and everyone really raved about his performance. And we see him in this film as a young boy, and he's asked to show a very wide range of emotion. And he nails it. So it's really no surprise that he's turned into such a fine actor. Along with him, we have Richard Jenkins, who plays the old man. And Richard Jenkins, he's kind of one of those actors, like you know his face, you've seen him in something, but you don't know his name. But he's really one of our great character actors working today, I feel like. And he's great in this. And we also have Elias Koteas, who plays the police detective. And I remember seeing Elias Koteas in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie from 1990. He played Casey Jones. That was the first movie I ever saw in the theater. So I have a lot of nostalgia for him. So it was really good to see him in this. I liked his performance. And we also have, as the main bully, we have Dylan Minnette. And he's much more intimidating, physically intimidating, than the bully in the original film. He's really more annoying. You feel like if he didn't have all his friends around, he wouldn't be much of a threat. But Dylan Minnette, who plays Kenny, it's not like that with him. He's very scary. And of course, last but not least, I have to talk about Chloe Grace Moretz. I enjoyed her performance in this film, and I want to talk a little bit about her later. I want to talk a little bit about some of the aspects of the story, which I feel like Let Me In does better than the original. First of all, I feel like the original is depicted as a love story between Ellie and Oscar. If you've seen the movie, you know that Oscar, in the end, he's being assaulted by his bullies in a pool. And then Ellie comes in and rescues him. And then they run away together on a train. And it's shown as a happy ending. But if you think about it, it's really not. I mean, what's going to happen to Oscar in 5 years, 10 years, when he grows up and Ellie still looks like a 12-year-old girl? And he's going to end up like that old man. He's going to become a serial killer, going out and murdering people to get blood for her. And neither movie really explains why she can't just go out and get the blood on her own. The book explains it, and if you want to know, I'll let you look that up on your own because it's really gross. But it's really a tragedy. And I feel like Matt Reeves tapped into that because he wrote the screenplay for Let Me In also. And I feel like he tapped in what a tragedy it is for Owen. We see that he's bullied at school, constantly bullied at school. And his relationship with his parents is not great. His mother, she's depicted as an alcoholic. We see her, she's always passed out on the couch with a glass of wine next to her. And we never actually see his father. We only hear his voice when Owen calls him shortly after he finds out Abby is a vampire. And Owen is very emotional, and like he needs his father's support. And his father is very dismissive of him. And the relationship with his parents in the original is not like that. He seemed to have a good relationship with his parents, and it doesn't really make sense to me why he would run away with Ellie, while in the remake it makes perfect sense because he has no one else. The only positive relationship he has in his life is with Abby, even though she's a vampire. Like, it makes sense why he would run away with her. He's ignoring all these red flags like in a toxic relationship. And also, like in a toxic relationship, we see Abby, like there's one way you can interpret this is that she's grooming him to become her new familiar, which I don't really believe that interpretation. I think that she cares about him, but like in a toxic relationship, like I said, she cares about him in a selfish way. Like, if she really loved him, she would leave him because she would know that his life is not going to turn out great with her. It's going to be awful. Something else I feel that the remake does better than the original is the way the old man is captured. In the remake, the way he kills people is he'll break into their car, he'll hide in the back seat, the driver will come along, get in, drive away, and the old man will kind of wait for the opportune moment to pop up and strike. And the way he's captured is he does his thing, he gets in the car, hides in the back seat, the driver comes along, drives off, but then he stops and he picks up one of his friends who needs a ride. And so now the old man, he's kind of just stuck there. He can't do anything. He's hiding in the back seat. He can't do anything against two guys. And it really puts you in his point of view, the killer's point of view. And it's very reminiscent to me of the scene in Psycho where Norman Bates is trying to dispose of a body that he has in the trunk of a car. And he pushes the car into a marsh. And the car starts to sink, and then suddenly it stops, and you see the worried look on Norman Bates' face. Like, that puts you in Norman Bates' point of view, the killer's point of view, and Let Me In, this scene is very reminiscent of that. But anyway, I won't go into a whole lot of detail here, but the scene ends in a car crash. And it's very, very cool the way it's shot. It's a great scene. A camera is mounted in the back of the car, and we see the car begin to tumble, and we're seeing the car crash from inside of the car, and this is the way the old man is captured. And it's so much better than the original film, the way he's captured in that. In that one, he's just kind of cornered in a gym, and he realizes he has nowhere to go, and he just kind of gives up. So the remake, it's just so much better. I have to mention this really quick. There's a scene in the original, it might be the worst scene in the movie. It has some really terrible CGI. It's a scene with a bunch of cats. A woman is attacked by some cats, and all the cats are CGI, and they don't look very good at all. And the cats are kind of all over her, and I think it's still CGI, but it almost looks like they just took a bunch of stuffed cats and sewed them onto her clothes, and she's kind of thrashing around with all these cats all over, and it looks pretty bad. The remake, it doesn't have anything like that. And another thing that the remake has better than the original is the score. The score for the remake by Michael Giacchino is fantastic. It is beautiful. Hauntingly beautiful, I think, would be a good way to describe it. It really blows the score of the original out of the water. The remake also has a great soundtrack. I didn't mention the remake is set in the early 80s, so you get a lot of songs from that period. You get some Blue Oyster Cult and David Bowie, lots of others. It's a really great soundtrack. Lastly, I want to talk about a couple of negatives from the remake. Nothing big, just a couple of nitpicky things. The remake, it starts off, it picks up right after the old man is captured. He's being rushed to the hospital. And then it flashes back 2 weeks in the past and picks up from there. And I really don't know why they did that. It doesn't really help the story, and they didn't do that in the original. And another thing is Chloe Grace Moretz's performance. I liked her in this movie, but I didn't feel like she was as good as the girl in the original, the actress in the original, Lena Lee Anderson. I felt like she really captured the character a little bit better. Like she's more confident. She seems tougher. Like there's this a scene where she tells Oscar that she'll help him with his bullies, and Oscar says, "But you're a girl," and she says, "I'm stronger than you think I am." And when she says it, you believe it. That's really it. Other than that, I feel like overall, the performances in the remake are better. The direction is better. The writing is better. It's really it's a better version of the same story. And I'll go back and watch the remake or the original from time to time, but if I want to see this story, most of the time I'm going to reach for the remake. I just like it better. Well, that's going to do it. What do you think? Have you seen both of these movies? Which one do you like better? Am I crazy for liking the remake better than the original? Let me know in the comments section down below. And please like this video, subscribe to my channel, follow me on Twitter and Instagram. It's @thatjoshkaysen. And until I see you again, have a great week.